Are processed meats bad? Do I have to eat grass-fed everything? Can I use seasonings on carnivore? Today, we're going to answer all of your food and drink related questions so that you can get a better handle on what is and isn't allowed on the carnivore diet. I'm Jenny. I've been on the carnivore diet for over a year and I've lost 40 pounds. I follow a practical carnivore approach, everyday carnivore for everyday people. I'm not a fitness guru. I'm not a model. I'm not uber rich. I'm not anything like that. I don't think carnivore should be overcomplicated because ain't nobody got time for that. You're going to get the vast majority of the benefits of carnivore without having to be so strict that it makes it hard to follow. So let's dive right in. The first question are, what are the different versions of the carnivore diet? We're going to go from most strict to least. The first is the lion diet. At its most strict, it would be beef, salt, and water. There are some people that would include other ruminant animals in that lion diet moniker. So a ruminant animal is any animal with 4 stomachs. The next level of strictness would be all meat and all seafood. And then we would do all meat, all seafood, eggs, and butter. And then finally, the least strict version of carnivore would be all meat, all seafood, eggs, butter, and high-fat dairy. The next question is the meat and fruit diet carnivore? No, it's not. If you're eating a massive amount of fruit, you are not following a carnivore diet. You would be following a meat-based or animal-based diet, but a carnivore diet is inherently ultra-low carb, 0 carbs most days. Next, what can I drink on the carnivore diet? This one is really simple. Water. Sparkling water. I do flavored sparkling water. I don't think that's a big deal. I drink bubbly. You can drink black coffee. There's going to be people that say, no, you cannot do that, but I disagree. I drink decaf black coffee every day. The decaf is not because of carnivore. I cut caffeine years ago because of an anxiety issue. So I think black coffee is fine. Tea, just regular unsweetened tea is fine in my opinion as well. Subcategory of this question would be, is diet soda okay? And you're going to get varying answers on that as well. I personally do not drink diet soda because it has artificial sweeteners and because it has a bunch of other stuff in it. But if you aren't going to do the carnivore diet, if you can't drink your diet pop, drink it. It's not that big of a deal. There's plenty of people on carnivore that drink diet soda every single day and they are very successful with it. But if you do find that your weight loss is slower or you're craving sugar still after being on carnivore for a few months, I would try to cut the diet soda because of the artificial sweeteners. The next question is, what about electrolytes? Electrolytes are really great, especially in the beginning of carnivore because of keto flu symptoms. Your body's getting used to a new fuel source and that can do wacky things with your mineral levels. So I would like to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Element Electrolytes. That's the brand that I use. I'm using their raw unflavored electrolytes. It has 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. It's the perfect mix to keep your electrolytes in balance. I like to do 1 packet of the raw unflavored into 16 to 24 ounces of water in the morning, and that really helps me through the worst of my keto flu symptoms. But now that I'm in month 14 of carnivore, I'm using it a lot more when I'm at the gym. I've been ramping up my strength training workouts, and it really helps me to stay hydrated at the gym. Right now, Element is offering my viewers a free sample pack of all their flavors with any order. That's 8 single serving packets free with any Element order. You can head to the link in the description. It is drinkelement.com/Jenny Mittich. That's DRINK lmnt.com/Jenny Mittich to get that free sample pack with any order today. Electrolytes are 100% allowed on carnivore. Just make sure you're getting an electrolyte that doesn't have added sugar in it. That's the most important thing. Next, do I have to eat grass-fed organic everything? The simple answer to that is no, you definitely don't. But it boils down to a few different factors. So first off, can you afford to buy grass-fed organic everything? Because it's kind of pricey. Second, do you prefer the taste? It does taste a little bit different, and a grass-fed steak needs to be prepared a little bit differently than a regular grain-fed steak. Well, is it really all that important? Sure, grass-fed meat is almost certainly going to be higher quality than your standard grain-fed meat. But that doesn't mean that it's, necessary. It's not like you absolutely have to do that. In a perfect world, all of our cows would be grass-fed. And, beef would be subsidized as opposed to corn and soy and sugar. But that's not the world we live in right now. So you really need to take a look at your pocketbook, see, what taste you prefer, and just get the meat that is best for you. There's also something to be said about being super obsessed about eating clean and pure everything. That can actually manifest itself into an eating disorder called orthorexia. And if you are getting a ton of anxiety over your food being super pure, that's not what this is supposed to be about, okay? Just buy the highest quality that you can afford. And just realize that eating the meat in general and cutting all of that ultra-processed crap out of your diet is going to be leaps and bounds better for you, even if you're eating grain-fed meat. I I personally don't really eat any grass-fed meat. I think the only grass-fed I eat is some American Wagyu. I'll link it in the description below. Their ground beef is out of this world. But other than that, I'm just buying regular meat at the grocery store. The next question is, are seasonings and sauces allowed on carnivore? Well, I think the most important thing is to avoid vegetable seed oils at all costs. A lot of the sauces out there have canola oil or soybean oil as their base. You do not want any of that in your diet. The second thing to avoid is dextrose, corn syrup, sugar of any form in any of your spices or in your sauces. You also want to avoid anti-caking agents. You will see this more often in your spices, so try to avoid those. I use mustard, hot sauce, and vinegar. Don't really worry too much about that. I also have found a really good buffalo sauce from Primal Kitchen. It's made with an organic avocado oil. So yeah, okay, that's not carnivore, but I like to use buffalo sauce with my wings. So this one is so much better than the one I was using before. I was using, I think, Red Hots or something like that, but the base of that was canola oil. So both of them are zero carb. Both of them don't have any dextrose, but one is made with vegetable seed oil and one is made with organic avocado oil. So I'm using the organic avocado oil one. I don't think it's that big of a deal. So just read the labels, use your discretion, and you'll be fine. Next, artificial sweeteners. Are they allowed? There's plenty of people on carnivore that use artificial sweeteners. I personally do not because it causes me to crave carby items. It causes me to eat more, and I just don't have a lot of success with artificial sweeteners. Now, if I was to use an artificial sweetener, I prefer allulose. It's about 70% as sweet as a teaspoon of sugar, so you need to use a little bit more. But it actually, in studies, is shown to drop your blood glucose levels. Very interesting work on allulose going on out there right now. So if I was to pick a sweetener, it would be allulose. But my advice, use what you're going to use. If you're still having a hard time on carnivore or craving sweets or all that kind of stuff, cut it and see what difference it makes. Just play around with it and experiment. The next question is, how do I deal with sugar cravings? This is a big one. This is something that a lot of people have to deal with. The first thing, we just talked about artificial sweeteners. If you're still using them and you're still having sugar cravings, cut the artificial sweeteners. Artificial sweeteners trick your body into thinking that you are still consuming sugar. So, if you cut them out, it's going to be very helpful. The next thing is time. That sucks. I'm sorry to say that, but just the longer you go without having sweet items, the less the craving is going to affect you. If you're coming from a diet where you were eating a ton of sugar, you may want to use artificial sweeteners as a tool to wean yourself off of sugar first, and then you can cut back on the artificial sweeteners as well. Just see it as progress, not perfection. Another good way to stop sugar cravings in their tracks is to eat until you are comfortably stuffed at every single meal. I talk about this in my in-depth guide to the carnivore diet and in my quick start guide, so go and check those videos out if you have not yet. But basically, every time you sit down to eat a carnivore meal, eat until you are comfortably stuffed. Then you're not going to want another bite of food and you're not going to be having a sugar craving. My final tip with sugar cravings, I've learned to do this over time. It's kind of a mental game that I do. I like to associate the food that I'm craving with how it makes me feel after I eat it. This is especially poignant after you've been on carnivore for a while and then you have a high carb cheat meal. Basically, I ate a cookie and then afterwards I felt the sugar spikes, felt like crap. And then within 2 hours, I wanted to eat again. I was just so wiped out. So now every time I see a cookie, I'm not like, ooh, cookie. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to avoid that cookie because it's going to make me feel like crap. And that can be a really, really good way to help train yourself to avoid the sugar in the first place. The next question is, do I have to eat sticks of butter to be on carnivore? No, you absolutely don't have to. A lot of people find success with that. Give it a shot. I did when I first started carnivore. I took a bite of a stick of butter. It was weird, but it wasn't bad, but I have not continued with that practice. So, you do you, but no, you absolutely don't have to eat sticks of butter on carnivore. The next question is organ meat mandatory? I'm going to say no, it's not mandatory. I do not ever eat it. I just started trying to incorporate it into my diet with these nose to tail provisions. They have these crisps that are like liver, elk heart, things like that. But I am going to try to start incorporating a little bit more into my diet because it's so nutrient dense. You really don't need much. 2 to 3 ounces a week of cow liver will do it for you, beef liver. But it's just, I just can't stand the taste. But yeah, is it mandatory? I'm going to say no. Should you try to incorporate it? Yeah, it's really nutrient dense, but you do you. The next question, is protein powder okay? And I think this one boils down to read the ingredients label. There's a lot of people that find it very hard to consume enough protein in the beginning of carnivore because, if you're coming from a diet where you're not eating as much protein, eating a lot more is like, oh God, and you're so full. Protein powder can help you to, get over the hump. So just make sure you're reading the ingredients labels. You don't want any added flavors, added colors, sugar, fillers, things like that. You want to have a really clean ingredients label. I've linked a few protein powders that I would use if I used protein powder. I don't, but I know a lot of people out there do. So I tried to find some really good ones out there. They are linked in the description. The next question is, what about cheat meals? How often can I have one? What about birthdays and celebrations and holidays and all that stuff? My opinion on cheat meals is to do one cheat meal per month, and not a cheat day, a cheat meal. And typically when I'm doing a cheat meal, it's like a keto cheat meal. I'm having some vegetables or something like that. I'm not going completely off the rails because I think with carnivore, the whole point is to try to eat a really clean and healthy diet. And the minute you start to have those standard American diet things, like if I had a bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, I would instantly feel like shit. It's kind of crazy now that I used to eat that stuff all the time because if I have a bowl of it right now, within an hour or two, I would feel totally crappy. My blood sugar would be all over the place and my knee would start hurting. Anytime I eat anything with gluten in it, my left knee starts to hurt. So I just don't mess around with those kind of cheat meals. I think holidays, holidays are special occasions. You're supposed to, relax, have a good time, whatever. If you're going to have some pie or have a drink or whatever, that's the whole point of a holiday is it's special. It doesn't happen every day. I think the most important thing on carnivore is what you do 99% of the time. So when a holiday rolls around, when your birthday rolls around, you cannot feel guilty about, indulging a little bit. But I found for myself now in month 14 that even on those special holidays, I don't really indulge the way I would have used to. I don't eat the high sugar things. I don't drink a ton of alcohol. Because I know it's going to make me feel like crap and I'd rather feel good the next day. So I might have some vegetables or some dried fruit or something, but nothing that's really going to mess me up. And I think that's just preferences that have come from living this lifestyle over time. So you'll see as you're on carnivore for longer and longer, you may decide that you don't even want to eat those things anymore. We will see how it works out for you. But yeah, a cheat meal once a month isn't going to kill you. Just try to avoid really high sugar and high carb items. The next question, can you eat fast food on the carnivore diet? 100% yes. Laura Spath is a creator here on YouTube. She has a bunch of really, really good short form videos about what she orders at different restaurants and different fast food places. So be sure to check out her channel. I'll link it in the description below. So many good tips there. For me, I'm really boring. I will just get burger patties from either Wendy's or from McDonald's. Get them off the a la carte menu. You don't want to order like a whole sandwich. You don't want to pay that whole price. I'm usually paying $2 per patty at McDonald's or $1.30 per patty at Wendy's. So I'll just get those, like 4 patties, and eat it with some mustard, and I'm good to go. I want to finish up with some questions about protein intake. I get questions about this all the time. How much protein should I eat? What fat to protein ratio should I aim for? What does a such and such amount of protein look like? So let's talk about all of those things right now. First off, why should you pay attention to your protein intake? I think people should be getting a minimum protein intake per day. The way that I calculate it is I take my ideal weight and I do 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal weight. I would like to weigh 130 pounds, so my minimum protein for the day is 130 grams. As long as I'm around that minimum, 110, 120, or over, whatever, I'm happy. It doesn't have to be super militant. The reason why it's so important to get enough protein is, for me at least, I was super wiped out, tired, fatigued if I was not getting enough. So the minute I upped my protein to 130 grams per day or more, I started to feel better. So I think it's really important for people to at least get a minimum amount of protein per day. Now let's talk about that fat to protein ratio. When you're first starting off on carnivore, the typical guidance is 70% fat to 30% protein. And this confuses a lot of people. So let's talk about that for a minute. The way this is calculated is 1 gram of fat has 9 calories and 1 gram of protein has 4 calories. So carnivore is typically a higher fat, medium protein diet. So 70-30 is just a really good place to start. But what does a 70-30 macro breakdown look like? The way that I figured this out is super simple. I use the free version of the MyFitnessPal app. I put all my food into the food diary, and then I go over to the nutrition button, and then I go to the macros button, and I just see the split. It'll tell you right there, okay, look, this is 65% fat to 35% protein, so on and so forth. I don't do any fancy calculations or anything like that. That is the super simple way to do this. 130 grams of protein, if you want to know what that looks like, that would be like a 15-ounce sirloin or 26 ounces of chicken wings, 22 ounces of ribeye, 22 eggs, or a little over a pound and a half of 80/20 ground beef. Obviously, most people aren't going to be eating 22 eggs in a day, so you would just split this up, however you're going to split up your day. Put that into the food diary, and it's going to spit out the calculation for you. You don't need to make it super complicated. Just try that, and I think you're going to get a good handle on it. If I didn't cover one of your carnivore food and diet related questions in this video, leave them in the comments below so that I can get those questions answered for you. And be sure to stay tuned for part 2 of this Carnivore Questions series, where I'm going to go over your disease and metabolic health questions. I'm going to put a link to my in-depth guide to the carnivore diet right here on the screen if you would like to check that out. And with that, I will see you next time.